My story begins when I got my first gout attack. So I would say I was 50 pounds overweight. The Western diet, it's too high in protein. There's too much meat and fat intake, and that stresses the kidneys. In gout, you have a compound chemical called purines, which every food has, but there are foods that are higher in purines than others. So the ideal gout diet that I advocate now is that folks should be eating 80% of.
Hi, everyone. I'm here today with a very intriguing person who has some really important information to share with us today, Spiro Koulouris, and he has been through lots. I'm going to let him tell his story, and so it's really great. Welcome to the show, Spiro. And if you could give us a snapshot of where you started, how you got into all this, and where you're at today.
My story begins at the age of 26, actually. That's when I got my first gout attack. So I was obese. I would say I was 50 pounds overweight. I remember eating a lot of Big Macs, drinking a lot of Cokes, and I liked to drink alcohol as a young 20-year-old, right? I remember one night I went to a pool hall, played some pool with some friends. I was drinking Jack Daniels and Coke all night. And then I went home. I went to bed, and at 3 a.m., I was awakened with an excruciating pain in the big toe, which was my first gout attack. I woke up in the morning, I remember limping to the doctor's office, and my doctor quickly diagnosed it as gout, and I didn't know what gout was. So we did blood work, and sure enough, my uric acid levels were off the roof, and this was a gout attack. I remember the pain was about 3 weeks long. I remember it even went up to my knee afterwards, a week afterwards. So I was basically crippled on one leg, and I had to use crutches to go to work. And I remember looking online, trying to find information about gout, and I couldn't find any patient point of view, right? Any blogs or anything like that. It was all medical sites and so on. So I dived deep into the studies, and I started checking out all the gout studies, and I started learning a lot of information, good information, and I decided to start a website blogging about gout and what foods to eat, what foods to avoid, and basically built a community out of it. And I started doing research on the studies and writing the articles, and it resonated with people. And now we have a community of about 50,000 people strong, and that's pretty much where it stands today. The website is goutandyou.com. And after that, I started making lifestyle changes. I realized that if I was going to continue this way of being obese and eating the way I was and drinking the way I wasn't going to. And because with gout, you could also get complications down the road. You could get diabetes, kidney failure, kidney stones, and other diseases. So I decided to make some changes. I started changing my diet, hitting the gym, exercising, and basically I have a book that I wrote afterwards, which is Gout and You, the Ultimate Gout Diet and Cookbook, which helps people with gout to understand what foods to eat and avoid, and how to break down the percentages between protein, fat, and complex carbohydrates. And that's pretty much it, I would say. That's where we're at today.
All right. So you're helping people get their head around what is actually causing this invisible enemy that usually doesn't show up till quite a bit later in life, but it hit you early on. So was it more of a genetic thing, you think, where you got affected so much sooner?
Yeah. In my case, usually gout affects 50-year-old and over, 75% male compared to 25% females, because females have a estrogen that protects them up until menopause. After menopause, they're at a higher risk of developing gout. So in my case, I had something genetic. I had a bit of thalassemia in the blood that I was born with. And my doctor presumes that could be the root cause of me getting gout at such a young age. So in my case, it's very rare. But nowadays, you'll read in the press that gout has become more prevalent with young people as well. More people in their 20s and 30s are getting diagnosed with gout, because basically the Western diet it's too high in protein. There's too much meat and fat intake, and that stresses the kidneys, right? When you eat a steak, it takes about 90 hours for the body to break it down, whereas if you eat a salad, it only takes a few hours for the kidneys to break that down properly. And in gout, you have a compound chemical called purines, which every food has, but there are foods that are higher in purines than others. So foods that are high in purines are anything, think of meat, alcohol, processed meats, processed foods, snacks, and so on. They're going to be on the higher end, seafood as well. Whereas vegetables, whole grains, beans, for example, are on the lower scale of the purine intake. So the ideal gout diet that I advocate now is that folks should be eating 80% of the daily calories as complex carbohydrates. So think of fresh vegetables, fruit, legumes, 100% whole grain breads, pastas and rice, beans for protein more than meat. And then I would break down 10% should be protein. So if you like your steak, you could have some red meat. I prefer chicken breasts, turkey, myself, fish. But I always tell people measure the size of your palm when you're having meat during that day. It should be around 200 calories, give or take, and only have one portion of meat in one day out of 3 meals. Don't have it for lunch and supper. And if you have bacon for breakfast and so on. So I recommend that. And then the final 10% can be fats. So think of it as eggs, milk, cheese, yogurt, and so on. So the danger part for gout is the animal-based foods. That's where the kidneys get in trouble. They produce too much uric acid because the kidneys get strained more to break down that uric acid and purines while you consume those foods. So you got to be careful basically with animal-based foods. And if you want to go vegetarian, if you're a gout sufferer, it's even better for you. Avoid meat totally. Just go straight vegetarian. Just eat complex carbohydrates on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, organ meat has a lot of really the highest purines, right?
Yeah, that's the worst. I have zero tolerance on organ meats. I tell gout sufferers avoid it completely, as well as processed meats. So any sausage, hot dogs are horrible for the kidneys and for your health. So I have zero tolerance. Even pork, I would say to a certain extent, avoid all pork as well. That spikes uric acid. And on the seafood side, avoid lobster, shrimp, crabs, calamari, octopus. Those spike uric acid levels as well. And a lot of studies have shown that in the past.
Like any shellfish, basically, right?
Yeah, any shellfish, exactly.
Oysters.
Try and stick with fish with scales. Oysters as well. Yeah, avoid those.
Yeah. There's a lot, all the hidden stuff people don't realize. And people love that food. And people, I find a lot of people love their food more than they love being healthy. And they're like, I'll just pay the price.
Yeah, it's marketed now as a luxury food. And 200 years ago, nobody would eat that food. It only came about, I would say, in the last 100 years that it came in style and in fashion to eat lobster and so on. Whereas in the past, human beings would not touch that food. It was actually called, they used to call it the cockroach of the ocean or shellfish. Basically, avoid that completely because it does spike the uric acid levels, that's for sure.
Yeah, avoid the cockroaches. Yeah, for sure. Avoid the snails, the slugs.
Yeah.
Escargot, slug. Yeah, and it comes down to common sense and mathematics because it is a ratio thing, and some people's bodies can endure all kinds of stuff. They might be able to eat out of the dumpster and party their face off and live till 94, but it's very few people who can do that.
Very few, exactly.
Yeah. They just have a different kind of metabolism. Well, thankfully, we don't have bodies like that because I want to know if there's harm happening. I don't want to have that kind of thing. My body is very sensitive as well. So you're hypersensitive to uric. And that's a good thing because you've been able to help so many people as a result. Yeah. I had a guy work for me in the oil field. I worked the oil field for 17 years. And he was 28 years old. And he was the driller on the rig. I was the tool push, rig soup. And all of a sudden, he couldn't work. And I was like, what's wrong? Well, he has gout. I was told he has gout because he didn't show up at work. I went, gout? What's that? Never heard of it. Well, it's this thing where your foot aches and you can't step on it. And out there, you got to be, I guess, a physically demanding job. You're carrying heavy stuff all the time and you're doing your thing. And it put him right out of work. Yep. Wow. And I was told then also he's way too young to have it happen, but it happened. Yeah. So it's like you said, it hits younger people as well. But I think the most important thing is that we know that's damaging our kidneys. Yeah. If you go into the Chinese medicine, all of them talk about your Jing energy, which is your battery charge, which is in your kidneys. When your battery runs out, you die. And kidney gets renal damage, goes to dialysis, goes to death shortly afterwards.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for dialysis, these people wouldn't be alive at all.
Yes.
So as far as mitigating, what are the things you found are the most effective to mitigate, these symptoms that come up?
The foundation should be your gout diet, the food you put in your system. So stick to what I've written, which is 80% complex carbs, 10% protein, 10% fat. And after that, you could supplement your gout diet. We sell a supplement called NutriGout, which has ingredients like Shankapiedra, milk thistle, celery seeds, so you could pee more, and so on. And that helps cleanse the kidneys, all right? And helps to support healthy uric acid levels. Drink a lot of water. I only drink water, tea, and coffee, I would say. Don't drink fruit juices. Pop is a zero tolerance. Avoid pop completely. So no Coke or Pepsi. And alcohol is very dangerous. That's one of the top culprits for a gout attack. And that's why a lot of youth are getting gout attacks nowadays, because they're drinking a lot in their 20s and 30s, and they're getting diagnosed at an earlier age. So alcohol, avoid as much as you can. Listen, I enjoy a good beer with a barbecue in the summer, but I won't have more than one or two. And if I do have 2 beers, I'll drink a lot of water before and afterwards to flush it out as quickly as possible from the body. So if you like something, you're not going to cut your favorite foods cold turkey, because the reason you got gout was because you're eating or drinking bad, right? So when I advocate to change your lifestyle, it's not going to happen overnight. It's a work in progress. You're going to start changing your diet, eating new foods, limiting your meat intake, and so on. And that's going to take time. You're going to have bad days, but the next day, just wake up and try and do better, eat better. That's what I recommend to patients of gout that contact me. So I recommend maybe have a diary, write down what you eat and measure what food you're eating, and so on. And also to notice any patterns on the road. So if you feel like you're getting a flare up, at least you could look at your diary and see which foods might have caused that trigger. So you can learn a little bit about your body and what tolerates it doesn't want, and what it doesn't tolerate. So what you're sensitive with, and so on. So yeah, that's pretty much it, I would say, for that.
Right. And it wreaks havoc throughout the body. I think women, they don't get gout in the foot as much. But
No,
they do get
they'll get it.
arthritis.
Yeah, they're more prone to arthritis. That's true. Yeah. And arthritis is like a sister disease to gout. A lot of arthritis patients will get arthritis first, and then it could worsen and complicate to gout, or vice versa. So, and the symptoms could be similar. So that's why it's important to get checked to get properly diagnosed. But again, it's a problem with high uric acid. And again, it's the same offensive foods that cause arthritis as well as gout.
Yeah, I've seen some different gout medications, or what you call natural things, but they do tinctures and alcohol. I'm like, no, we don't do that. Like, there was a study done in the UK quite a few years ago now, and there was a Dr. David Nutt, NUPT, where he was given millions of dollars to study every single drug that is in the world. In other words, anything that had that drug releases. And so he went, it was like a horseshoe. So there was the top of the top, the worst of the worst, and it went all the way down to the best of the best that brought real benefit. And the worst of the worst by an exponential amount, above all of the drugs, including heroin and crystal meth and barbiturates and opiates. And it was alcohol. Because alcohol is ingrained into our society at a level like nothing else anywhere. Every restaurant has a bar. Every city has multiple bars. And there's all the most fancy brands imaginable, with packaging and the design and the flavors, and there's all the different rums and the vodkas and the tequilas and the whiskeys and the beers and the wines. I mean, it's just endless. And there were people like, everybody drinks. Like, who doesn't drink? It used to be the Christian world were teetotalers. Well, it was against our religion to drink alcohol. That went away 20 years ago. They all drink alcohol, right? Yeah. So it's bizarre, the amount of, and so anyway, what he was looking at was domestic damage, relationship damage, vehicle equipment destruction, of course, the physical detrimental effects of alcohol. It was just massively higher than everything else. And then he went all the way around the circle, and he was preparing this for the government. It's the government that funded the study. And he found out in the end, as you went up the other side to the positive side, that the discovery in 1938, which was released in 1943 to 1963 by Sandoz Pharmaceutical, which was a natural extract from ergot mold. They would extract LSA from that, and then they extracted LSD from that. And then they had LSD was a fully legitimate drug that had no toxicity. You could not get addicted to it, and it only showed physical benefit. There were no physical detriments. And between 1943 and 1963, Sandoz produced tens of thousands of doses of LSD, which was just the tiniest amount in each dose. And they sent it all over the world. And where they were sending it was to these institutions who were dealing with extremely disabled people who had all kinds of mental, emotional diseases. And it's so bad that these people are screaming all night, every single day, and all day long, just tormented with all kinds of things. And they saw that starting to clear all these people up, and nobody was told about this. Only the doctors in these institutions knew about it. And so there was this 20 years of incredible results. And then it got released. People started to find out about it, trickled out into society. And university students started taking it in the 60s. And they started waking up to, hey, what's this Vietnam War about? What's this politics? Who are these people running the show? Why are they making all these terrible decisions? Why are people dying for no reason? And so as soon as that happened, and people started waking up and questioning these things, they went, hey, why all of a sudden are they doing? Oh, they got a hold of LSD. Oh, we can't have that. So they stopped it completely. In 1971, it was banned as a Schedule I drug, along with all the other stuff, even though that there was zero harm. But the thing was, it was being used under clinical environments. It wasn't just randomly given out to people. Don't just give LSD to people. It's ridiculous. It's not mentioned
Kind of
at
like
all.
mushrooms nowadays. That's back in trend for medical purposes. Yeah.
Right. And actually, the scientist who discovered LSD, Albert Hoffman, also found out that it was in many parts of nature, that molecule, in mushrooms particularly. But it was the type of emotional, mental intelligence that we have when we're little kids. Because everything's amazing, right? We're so curious and the world's so exciting. The little kids just love fireworks and they're so blown away by things that you and I just take for granted anymore. And so it was getting that excitement and curiosity back in people's lives. But the fact that it did mental repair like that, but then if you just gave it to anybody, you don't know, it may have a very bad experience. And so it's not to be done like that. It's not a recreational drug. It's a very specific thing. But anyway, when he brought the study back to the government, they they said, okay, you are never, ever releasing the study. And he goes, what are you talking about? You guys paid millions of dollars for this. I did everything from MRIs to brain scans to you name it. This is a deep study. How could we not let people know? Well, no, we're definitely not going to let people know. We make billions of dollars per year off the taxes of alcohol. This is developed over centuries. No, this is not going away at all. So if you tell the people this, number one, we want them to continue drinking alcohol, and we definitely don't want them to be taking a substance that would wake them up.
Yeah.
So
But it goes deeper than that. I know I've read that intelligence agencies have done a lot of testing with LSD and all these other drugs. So like you said, it's protecting industries and players that put money in their pockets and like big pharma. I get it. Yeah.
And most people don't ever need LSD.
Yeah.
They're perfectly fine without it. It's a therapeutic drug that is used very specifically for if a person's a really high performer, they're going to perform much higher. But that's, again, it's a personal thing. They don't just randomly set that out there. But it was just interesting that they banned the study. So he goes, well, no, I have to publish. This is my life's work. No. Anyway, he got fired and did publish it, but he published it privately. And he was interviewed and he talked about it. They absolutely blackballed him. They told him, if you put any of this out, we are going to crucify you. We're going to take you, we're going to say all kinds of bad stuff about you. Then we're going to kill him. but because you can't kill the information once it's out there.
That's right.
But so some people found out. But it's just like this thing with gout. What you're doing is extremely important because you're directly with people. You're seeing that what works and what doesn't work. And people can monitor it. They just have to alter their lifestyle and be able to find out for themselves. Because the only way you found out was by doing. Right? Otherwise,
Correct.
in the physical world, you can't pretend you don't have gout. You can't pretend. It's mathematical, it's scientific.
That's right.
And the fact that you got the alarm going off allowed you to take action way sooner than most people. Now, if you go back to your 20-year-old self right now, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, lose the weight, don't drink as much, skip the high fructose corn syrup drinks, less meat. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and protect your kidneys, man.
Yeah.
Stay as close to a 20-year-old as you can. Yeah, that's the idea, to maintain a 20 to 25-year-old usefulness in your physical biology as long as humanly possible, which we now have found out is totally doable once you have the knowledge. And I turned 66 in June. I am definitely way healthier than I was when I was 20. And my biological measurements are getting back to around a 25-year-old. But, me not knowing, being a know-it-all by the time I was 46, thinking I knew something, everything I knew was killing me, I almost died. Yeah. So I had to stop here. I had to learn like crazy. Like you had to learn. You had to learn. You don't learn, you're going to suffer. You don't even want to be alive if you're suffering at that level. Right? Yeah. Like can you imagine if you didn't get this information where you'd be right now?
Yeah. Well, listen, our bodies are meant to live 100 years. So, and not too many people are hitting the century mark. So it's all diet at the end of the day. A bit of environmental, of course, but primarily diet is key if you want to live to 100.
Right. That's what you do day in and day out is you eat food and you drink fluids. Yeah. The one thing I learned about along this way, which nobody ever talks about and I never thought of ever, but it just sort of started dawning on me because I saw all these people who are health experts dying on the average age of 75 to 85. Some of them died sooner. I was like, hold it. They're a health expert. They're in the health research world. They just died. A healthy body doesn't die. It just doesn't die. You'd have to have an accident to die if you're healthy. And, the 100-year-olds, the people who make it to 100, they don't look good. The last 10 years of their life is not so much fun. The last few years of life is really not fun. So I knew there was something terribly flawed with just looking at longevity. So, the only key performance indicator you have right now is that you don't have any gout symptoms when it comes to gout, right? That's a key performance indicator. Well, the number one key performance indicator for everybody is, are you getting healthier as you get older, which is what you're supposed to do? Or are you losing your health as you get older, which is what the normal is? 99.9% of the people in the world get less healthy as they get older, but they're not supposed to. You should get healthier and healthier and healthier as time goes on. And that means healthier in every category. So these people who are dying, they only had one key. They didn't have all the keys. So a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So looking at the body holistically, your entire life holistically, and you have a major key, because your key is going to be dealing with an invisible thing that people can now mitigate before they ever get a symptom, once they understand the math behind it. Like you mentioned, the protein, no bigger than the palm of your hand. They could even drop that down to half a palm, which would be even better. But they have to be able to get the nutritional quality to build muscle.
That's right.
And the other key indicator is insulin spikes. People get little insulin spikes all day long, and also dopamine spikes. So if you're eating something that creates a dopamine hit, you're tapping into your bank reserve of dopamine, which you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So you want to maintain your dopamine levels. So when you need them, then you can truly enjoy that experience. So as far as the discipline, what have you found is the main thing to help people get their head around the disciplinary side of self-care?
You mean to discipline themselves to alter their lifestyle and diet, right? Yeah.
Right.
On the discipline side, I mean, it takes, like I suggested before, a diary maybe. And when you go grocery shopping, shop only the healthy foods. Don't bring, I don't know, Coca-Cola in the house or your favorite dessert, because once it's in the house, it's going to call your name eventually. You know it's accessible. You're going to have it. So avoid buying junk food. Shop healthier at the grocery store. Bring healthy food. And over time, it's going to take time. Your palate will change as you're eating healthier. You won't crave the old foods that got you in trouble. So you won't crave that burger and Coke or fries like you did. So your palate will change. You'll eat healthier. You'll feel healthier. And you're going to want to stay on that route. So it's a work in progress. If you want to work with a nutritionist, that could help with discipline, or a trainer at the gym as well. But that's pretty much it. I mean, you just got to be conscious of what you're putting in your body day in, day out. And no, I would say maybe a motivator would be fear of your gout worsening, getting more attacks, or getting a complication, like I said, like kidney stones before, diabetes, arthritis, heart disease. Gout sufferers are at an increased risk of getting a heart attack and stroke. So you want to be thinking about longevity and being there for your family, and that should motivate you, I think, and keep you disciplined.
So yeah, the diary is a really good thing, and taking an inventory on what's in the house. I remember when I was kind of going through my transitions, I knew that if I buy the organic chocolate ice cream, which I loved at the time, then I thought, I'll just buy one. But then I knew that if I ate it, it would mess with me. And so I thought, well, the only way to really get it out of the house is just eat it all. So just eat it and get it out of the house and just don't buy that again. But then 3 months later, it's like you walk by and, oh, that stuff, I totally missed that. So then we have all kinds of ways of justifying why we're going to do something.
Well, I have a trick. I have a hack. If your body or your brain is really craving sugar, for example, like in your case, ice cream, and you really can't get it under control, have maybe 1 or 2 tablespoons and leave it at that. Then you'll notice that the dopamine will get satisfied. The crash will go down, and you'll give it some sugar, but give it small portions. I like chocolate, but I'll have 1 square whenever I crave a piece of chocolate. I love ice cream. I'll have the small if I go to Dairy Queen instead of the large. So just keep it very minimal, small portions, and they'll make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think moderation was everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever tapped into hormones like leptin? Are you familiar with leptin at all?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so
What is
the
that?
world, me neither. I didn't even know anything about this. And recently, I ran into a 40-year study that was done on leptin. And it turns out that leptin is the master hormone. And everybody has leptin in their body, but you can't access it. So the reason you can't access it because your system is out of equilibrium, and it has to do with insulin spikes. So once you adjust your intake to things that allow you to access leptin, everything dramatically changes for the better, because hormones are running the show in the background, ultimately. And so flipping your body, because there's two things you can do. You can either have your body running on carbs, or you can have your body running on fat. But you cannot, if your body's running on carbs, you can't just go and eat a bunch of fat, because you'd literally harm yourself, because your body's not conditioned to use fat for the energy. And it's either one or the other. And most people will never transition to become a fat burner, and they will never, ever have a day in their life when they're leptin sensitive, is what it's called. There's this woman I met who did this 40-year study. She's got the data on it. And it involves getting rid of all of the problems. So your body it gets rid of all the toxins, everything radically changes. You don't have to worry about weight loss at all, because your body automatically goes right to the weight that is built in the blueprint. And it gets rid of all the white fat, turns it into brown, which is what you want. And it builds really clean muscle. And if you have any men produce less testosterone as they get older, well, immediately, as soon as they become leptin sensitive, they produce all the testosterone they need. Doesn't even matter if they're 90 years old. And they don't have to have any testosterone replacement or anything. They just automatically go back into that state. But this is extremely rare. And just like you see people who have gout and they don't change to this lifestyle. Now you got 50,000 people who are like, yeah, I'm going to do this. There's 8 point something billion people in the world. So what you're into is rare. It's very rare. You're one of the very few on the earth who's got into this. It's super important information. And you're willing to spend your time and your energy to serve these people. And everyone actually needs to know this. There's not a single person on earth that doesn't need to know that you've got to control that uric acid or you're going to pay. You will eventually pay the price. Genetics or not, it's going to do damage. And because everybody is acceptable to the life expectancy that's told to us, then they just go along with it. So as far as like your message, because you obviously have been given this mission, this didn't come by chance. You were handed a mission. And it's not yours, but you have to treat it like it's yours. It's like if you didn't take the mission, then somebody else will have to do it. But you've chosen to be on this mission to show people, and you've literally made a career out of it. And you're going to get better and better and better. You'll serve more and more people in the future by a long shot. Because more and more people will start to get these things and go, what was that? I remember that guy talking about that. I better go back and check it out, right? Who's Spiro? Yeah. Okay, let's find out. And you're doing it because of a passion. It's not go and make a bunch of money. You'll generate revenue because that revenue is needed to help more people, because it costs a lot of money to get people educated, and you're the educator. So what would you say to, if you had one big thing you could say to people that would motivate them the most, not anything you said so far, just something that you can think of that would be very encouraging and inspiring for people to get their heads around and get their hearts around, what would that thing be?
Good question. I think it's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of diet, a little bit of making those small changes on a daily basis. And that's what leads to the result. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's a lot of small habits. So daily habits, small habits. So you see that can of Coke, you see that bottle of water, take the bottle of water. That's one small decision. You see a burger or maybe some beans with some vegetables, take that meal instead of the burger. So it's a lot of small decisions, and the habits will cause discipline and motivate you and keep you going. Because if not, your gout will only get worse. If you don't make those dietary changes, your doctor is going to increase your dosage of allopurinol, which manages uric acid, and you're just going to go on a higher dose, and that hurts the kidneys as well. So it's a double-edged sword. You're going to damage your body and health either way. So a lot of small habits, I would say. Start today, and you'll get that result. You'll feel better, and you'll stay on that healthy road.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Doing the small, scalable things that are just building up to, like in a year, a bunch of small habits in 1 year has got a pretty big life change.
Yeah, because we're all weak, and you're all going to fail. So, like you said, you're going to have that ice cream if you're craving it, and so on, and that's going to happen. But you just get up and you correct yourself, and you make a lot of small decisions, small habits, and that will lead to a big result down the road. So that should be your motivation.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, very good advice. Definitely the way to go. Because people get overwhelmed with the idea of, I got to change everything, and people don't like change. But they love results.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why our industry is full of 30-day. Within 30 days, you'll be this, or you feel like this, or you'll cure this disease, or blah, 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 blah. So watch out for those hustlers. It's a long road. It doesn't happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight when you're changing your health. So it's habitual. Give it a few months and you'll be on the right track.
Right. I think it applies to everybody, whether they have gout symptoms or not. It's just really intelligent and a wise move to make to head in the right direction now before anything does happen. And so how do we find you? What's the best place to look you up?
Yeah, just go on my website. Yeah, goutandyou.com. Email me if you have any questions. Anybody that suffers from gout, you could email me at info@goutandyou.com. I answer all emails within 24 hours. And after that, we're everywhere on social media. We have a big presence on YouTube, Gout and You YouTube channel, and so on. And we also sell a line of supplements that helps gout sufferers by the brand of Gout and You. And if you want to learn more and deep dive into gout, I have my book, Gout and You, the Ultimate Gout Diet and Cookbook, that will help you understand what foods to eat, what to avoid, and it helps you get started with 100 recipes on what to cook at home and how to start eating healthier. So that's included in the book as well.
Cool. And so it sounds like a good broad spectrum, great place for people to start and take it, take their responsibility in their own hands, because it's your body and nobody's going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And you only answer to yourself ultimately, because your body's going to either kick your butt or
That's right.
make you feel really great.
That's right.
Yeah. Very, very good. Well, thanks, Spiro, for, coming and sharing all this really important information. Everyone is definitely going to get a great benefit from this. And we'll look forward to further conversations in the future. So thanks for everyone for listening. And thanks a lot, Spiro.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll catch up to you soon.